At the time of making this video, kicking off the UFC 304 main card is a bout between Arnold Allen and Giga Chikadze. Arnold Allen will be coming into this fight after 2 losses, a spirited decision loss to Max Holloway and a controversial decision loss to Movsar Evloev. Giga Chikadze comes into the fight slightly less active, taking a bad beating against Calvin Kattar in January 2022. Importantly, he comes into this fight on a winning streak with a win against Alex Caceres. So looking at these 2 fighters, you have Allen, who has good movement and fast punches. He doesn't have many knockdowns or knockouts though. Chikadze isn't as mobile, but he has very fast kicks and solid hands. Allen prefers to operate in and out on the edge of boxing range, where he will still be in range for Chikadze's kicks. Allen averages 1 takedown per fight. It's possible he may get Chikadze down at points, and there may be an outside chance of an Allen submission or TKO from a dominant position. If I had to make a prediction of the most likely outcome, personally I would go Chikadze via decision after a dominant kicking display, or potentially he could set up a TKO via body kick or high kick. Up next on the UFC 304 card is a bout between Muhammad Mokaev and Manel Kape. Coming into this fight, Mokaev has the big record, although it is Kape who has opened up as the favourite. Mokaev recently turned heads in a local BJJ tournament, going 0-2 for the day at the purple belt level and getting disqualified for a slam, which has made some question his ground game. For me, this is a clear striker versus grappler matchup. On the one hand, Mokaev can potentially grind out a decision. On the other, it's not hard to imagine Kape landing a knee or a big headshot. Mokaev has nearly been submitted before, and he struggles to do damage on the ground even though he has a couple of submission wins in the UFC. The reason I find it hard to count him out is because he's good with upper body takedowns and not just shots. He's also one of the most prolific takedown artists in the UFC, averaging just under 6 takedowns per fight. Overall, I will give a slight edge to Kape to either get back up at some point and deliver a TKO or deliver an early KO, but I think it's a hard fight to predict. Next up on the UFC 304 main card is a bout between Paddy Pimblett and Bobby Green. Pimblett comes into the fight with a 5-0 UFC record, though basically everyone thinks it should be 4-1 because of the Jared Gordon decision. In my opinion, this fight is closely matched. I feel inclined to say Pimblett is the better fighter as the sum of his parts, even though that's an unpopular opinion. That said, you could say Green had a slightly better performance against their one common opponent, Tony Ferguson. In terms of the specifics of the matchup, Pimblett has an advantage on the ground, but I'm not sure he'll be able to get it there. I'm not sure that Pimblett has fought an opponent like Green, who is unorthodox in that he's willing to strike at long range, and he's also willing to frustrate his opponents and engage in posturing. The issue that Pimblett has had with his striking is that although he has decent athleticism, he tends to lunge in and get countered. Considering that Green keeps long range, it seems to me that will give him more time to land counters if Pimblett lunges in. A potential way for Pimblett to correct some of the issues he's had in the past are, in my opinion, to edge his way into range using defensive skills so he doesn't attack from as far out. Alternatively, he could use more probing footwork and feints, although that would likely affect his cardio. Another strategy Pimblett could implement is to roughly walk in and get into a brawl, which is what he ended up basically doing in his UFC debut. From a firefight, he might have more opportunities to take it to the ground, where he does have a significant advantage, in my opinion. Based off the way they have both been approaching recent fights though, I will make Green my pick. I think Pimblett might have his moments in one of the first 2 rounds, but I suspect Green will settle into a groove, outstriking him on the outside for significant parts. The next fight on the card is between Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades. When looking at their first fight, it looked to me Blades edged the first exchange. However, when Rico Verhoeven comes out and sings the praises of Tom Aspinall's striking, you have to take notice. Aspinall has also backed the hype now with his quick KO win against Sergey Pavlovich, so I'd be fairly confident saying Aspinall is the better striker here. That said, there is a method to victory for Blades, as he showed against Alexander Volkov that he can wrestle for 5 rounds to win a decision. Aspinall does have one legitimate loss, and it came early in his MMA career against Stuart Austin. Austin is a bit unusual in that he has a judo background, but he clearly got the better of the exchanges in terms of takedowns in that fight. Aspinall carried a submission threat throughout the fight, but near the end of the second round he got caught in a heel hook. It looked like a soft tap to me, but I guess if you're caught in a heel hook, you really don't want to get your Achilles tendon snapped. I do wonder though if Aspinall might have been quite tired at that stage, even though it was hard to notice. Overall, I'm picking Aspinall to win via TKO, either on the feet or from getting to a dominant position. Finally, for the UFC 304 main event, the rematch between Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad. Looking at that first fight, Belal struggled to get into the fight. Since that fight, not much has changed, though he does have the TKO win over Sean Brady. One moment that doesn't get mentioned much in the first fight is that at one point Edwards shot on Belal, which may have been a questionable tactic. Personally, I see this fight being closer than Edwards' fight with Colby, with Edwards probably winning a 3-2 decision. Let me know in the comments your picks for the UFC 304 main card.